Hello there, and the story ninjas in the house. Well, listening ninjas, this really was a good cup of coffee. So, my next story that I'm sharing with you was found on morning coffee beans. Yes, I do love my coffee, and I often find my inspiration after my first cup for the day. Well, I'm sure you're keen to find out what our story is about today. You are? Well, many of us know that there's a season coming up called Advent. And Advent on the Christian calendar means a whole lot more than the traditional Advent calendar that many of us are used to finding in the stores. Way more than shiny little trinkets and chocolates beneath each flap. So I'm sure your big people would also love to find out what this story is about and how it can help them to understand the season of Advent. So go and find them and let's get settled down for story time. I'll give you a moment there. Right. I see you have all settled down and you're ready for story time. Well, I found this. Some of you may be thinking, well, what are you doing with a fork? Shall I tell you? Well, the fork is the source of inspiration for the story, and well, it represents a very special message. So, this is the story that I've come across. It may sound a little bit sad to start off with, but the message surely leaves something special. Right. I just have to tell you, by the way, I do love sneaking people that I know, friends and family, into stories that I found and then share with everyone else. Now, it seems there was a woman who had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and that does seem rather sad. And she'd been given just a few months to live. And well, she was a very proactive woman, and she decided to get her orders. Did I say her orders? Well, her affairs in order. And she contacted her pastor and asked him to come around and visit so that she could discuss her final wishes with him. Well, she told him which songs she wanted and Bible verses, what outfit she'd like to be buried in too. And yes, she had a favorite Bible that she wanted with her as well. Well, all the final wishes were in order, and the pastor was preparing to leave when the woman suddenly remembered, Pastor, just one more thing. Just remembered. What's that? The pastor asked. Well, this is very, very important, actually. So glad I remembered before you left. I want to be buried with a fork in my right hand. So I see that many of you are as puzzled as the pastor was. I'm sure. Really puzzled looks on your faces. The pastor looked at the woman, and yes, so why a fork in the right hand? Well, he wasn't quite prepared for this, but listen, this is it. The woman saw that it surprised and puzzled the pastor. And she says, well, to be honest, let me just share this. Poor pastor, ever so puzzled, sits down again to have a listen. So the woman explains. Well, in all my years of attending church socials, and you know those bring and share suppers, I always remember that once all those main dishes have been cleared off the table, someone would lean over and whisper, keep your fork. Well, it was my favorite part. And because I knew that something better was coming. Well, what could be something better after some delicious meals? Well, yes. Well, let me share with you. Something better like Marlene and Bernie's velvety chocolate cakes. Or maybe Connie's donuts. Richard's malva pudding. Heather's trifle. Betty's biscuits. And maybe Melanie's pancakes. Genevieve's fridge tart. Melissa's decadent cupcakes. But let me stop there because this something wonderful and substantial. I could go on and on because there's plenty more deliciousness to follow. Well, the old woman just has a thought. So I actually just want people to see me with a fork in my hand. And she's got this picture going of herself laying in that last very reverent moment. And I want them to wonder, what's with a fork? Just like you wondering now, what's with this fork? Let's get to it. Then I want you, Pastor. So Pastor has a role in this too. Keep your fork. The best is yet to come. And that's the message she wanted to leave with everyone who came to pay their last wishes and say their goodbyes. So how does it tie in with Advent, you may ask? Well, the Latin meaning of Advent actually means coming. And that marks the beginning of a new church year. Well, not really starting in January like our normal new year would start. And this is a time of expectancy and preparation for the coming of our Savior. It is a time that Christians believe that some 2,000 years ago, with the birth of Jesus, yes, Christmas coming up. So we wait for this season to happen again and again, this expectancy for something new, something fresh. So getting to Advent, we really all remember that there are these 4 candles that are lit every week in the 4 weeks preceding our Christmas. So the Advent candles, yes, I hear some of you whispering there, it represents hope, peace, love, and joy. But what about that? So let's hear about that very first candle, hope. Well, the story itself about this woman and her fork allows us to see hope, even though all her friends are coming to say goodbye to her, with only one thing left to give as she ends her life. She has given us a symbol of hope. And so she wishes to leave that message with all who come to go and bid her farewell. Well, and us too. Well, she feels that most people need hope. And I think right now we are in a very different year. And hope is the one thing that keeps us going. Well, the second candle that was lit was peace. And I couldn't help think but of the times. As a younger mom with a younger child, well, I always try to be buying gifts for everybody. Lots and lots of gifts, just to ensure that everybody had what exact gift that they needed. And I may have missed something important about the Christmas season. Because now I realize that children don't thrive on the gifts we buy, but on the time we spend with them. And all that unconditional love that surrounds them. So I think some of us eventually in time realize how much more time means than presents and gifts. Well, the third candle is love. And well, as we all know, love is still the best gift to give to everyone around us, including ourselves. And love can be given in so many ways. And we know that we've been doing lots of it, feeding people, sharing clothing, packs, just about anything, blankets. It feels good, doesn't it? When that love is returned too. The last candle then for the season will be the candle of joy. And looking around me and seeing all who are dear to me still here after this very difficult year and very different year reminds me that joy is something that I can have during the Christmas season and all year long, because I know, yes, the best is still to come. So for this season, may you know hope, peace, joy, and love, and share it abundantly too. So when you look at your fork, I do hope you remember the story and remember that the best is still to come. So until next time, goodbye.